It started in the most ordinary place, an almost empty parking lot behind a strip mall on a Tuesday night. The hum of a broken streetlight, the smell of fried food drifting from the diner, the sound of sneakers scuffing against pavement, and then her scream. Emma stumbled back against a cold car door, her designer coat ripped at the shoulder, her phone shattered on the ground. 3 college boys cornered her, laughing too loud, daring each other to push it further. Dozens of people had walked by already. No one stopped. Except him. Jack Holloway looked nothing like a hero. Oil stains clung to his jeans. His shirt was damp with sweat from a long shift at the garage. In one hand he carried a paper bag of groceries, in the other his little girl's hand. Mia was sipping a strawberry milk carton when she froze, tugging his sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That lady's crying." Jack's steps slowed. He glanced at the corner, saw her. And in that instant, the tired mechanic with nothing left to give was gone. The soldier, the father, the man who couldn't look away, he was the one who stayed. He crouched to Mia's eye level, pressing the groceries into her arms. His voice was calm, steady, the kind kids never forget. "Sweetheart, go inside the diner. Tell the lady at the counter to keep you safe." Mia's eyes widened, but she nodded, clutching the bag tight. She ran toward the warm glow of the diner doors without another word. And then Jack straightened. His boots echoed across the asphalt as he walked toward the shadows, each step deliberate, carrying the weight of someone who had seen too much to be afraid. "Hey!" His voice cracked through the night like a warning shot. The tallest boy turned, smirking under the flicker of the streetlight. "Who the hell are you?" Jack didn't stop, didn't blink. "You've got 5 seconds," he said quietly. "Let her go." The tallest boy laughed, the kind of laugh that tried to cover fear with arrogance. "Or what? You gonna play hero in your dirty boots?" Jack didn't flinch. He stopped just 10 feet away, his voice steady, his eyes locked on Emma instead of them. 3 seconds now. Emma's heart hammered. Her blouse was torn, mascara streaking her cheeks, but the way he looked at her, calm, certain, felt like the first lifeline she'd been thrown all night. "Let her go," Jack said again, quieter this time, "before you regret it." The shortest one sneered, "You're outnumbered, old man." Jack's reply was simple, 2 seconds. The leader shoved Emma aside and lunged, all muscle and no thought. Jack shifted like it was second nature. One hand caught the boy's wrist, twisted, and in a blink the kid was face first on the pavement, screaming in pain. The other 2 froze. For the first time, they realised this wasn't a tired mechanic. They were up against someone who'd done this before. "You want next?" Jack asked, his voice low, unshaken. They didn't. They scrambled to drag their friend away, retreating into the night with curses muttered under their breath. For a long moment, the parking lot fell silent. Only Emma's shaky breathing filled the air. Jack turned to her, his voice softer now. "You okay?" Emma nodded, though her lip was bleeding. I think so." He took off his jacket, draping it gently over her shoulders. The fabric smelled faintly of gasoline and pine. "You're safe now," he said. She swallowed hard, tears threatening to spill. No one had said that to her in years. Behind them, the diner door opened. Mia stood in the warm glow, groceries still in her arms, her little face pressed to the glass. When she saw Emma wrapped in her dad's jacket, she broke into a small, relieved smile, like she'd just witnessed her father save the world. And maybe, Emma thought, he had. Jack guided Emma toward his old pickup, the engine rumbling like it had lived 3 lives already. He opened the passenger door, steadying her as she climbed in. For a moment she resisted. Her world was town cars and private drivers, not rust and vinyl seats, but her ankle throbbed too much to argue. When he slid behind the wheel, Emma's eyes caught on the back seat. A booster seat sat strapped in tight, a stuffed unicorn slumped against it. A pack of crayons spilled from a zippered pouch. The details hit her harder than she expected. The man who had just dropped 3 college boys in seconds wasn't just a fighter. He was a dad, holding a life together with duct tape and love. "You're limping," Jack said, keeping his eyes on the road. "I'll be fine," Emma whispered, though the broken heel on her designer shoe told another story. They drove in silence for a while, headlights carving through the dark streets. Emma clutched his jacket tighter, inhaling the faint smell of grease and pine that felt strangely more comforting than any perfume she'd ever owned. Finally, she found her voice. "Why did you stop? Everyone else just walked by." Jack's grip tightened on the wheel, but his tone stayed even. "Because I've seen what happens when people don't. Overseas, back here, it doesn't matter. You walk past someone crying for help, you lose a piece of yourself you don't get back." His words sank deep, heavier than anything she'd expected from a stranger. Emma glanced at him, then quickly away. "I don't even know your name." "Jack," he said simply, then after a beat, "Jack Holloway." Her chest tightened. She knew that name. Somewhere in her memory, boardroom whispers, her father's voice low and furious. It flickered like a match, but she couldn't place it, not yet. She turned back to the window, watching the dark houses roll by, kids' bikes tipped on lawns, flags hanging still in the night breeze, a world far from hers. And yet, for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was running. At least for now, she felt safe. The truck rattled to a stop in front of a small, weathered house on a quiet street. The porch light flickered, kids' bikes lay scattered in the yard, and a faded American flag swayed in the night breeze. Emma hesitated as Jack opened her door. She had grown up with marble floors and chandeliers, homes so large you could get lost in them. This house looked like it could fit inside her old living room. But when Jack pushed open the front door, something hit her harder than size ever could. Warmth. The smell of spaghetti sauce lingered in the air. A pair of pink rain boots leaned against the doorframe. Crayon drawings covered the fridge. Smiling suns, stick figures, a lopsided cat with MIA scrawled above it in bright marker. It felt alive, messy, real. Emma's throat tightened. Her childhood home had been spotless, silent, staff making sure nothing was out of place. Here, every corner told a story. "Sorry about the mess," Jack muttered, setting the groceries down. She shook her head quickly. "Don't, it's perfect." Before he could answer, little feet padded down the hall. Mia appeared in oversized pajamas, clutching a stuffed bear almost as big as her. She looked at Emma with wide, cautious eyes, then at her father. Jack crouched. "Hey kiddo, this is Miss Emma. She had a rough night. She's going to stay here for a while, okay?" Mia thought about it, then walked up and tugged gently at Emma's torn sleeve. "Do you want my blanket? It's soft." The offer was so pure, so unguarded, Emma almost broke. She knelt down, blinking back tears. "That would be amazing, sweetheart." Jack watched, something flickering in his eyes. For years he'd protected Mia alone, kept the world at arm's length. Seeing his daughter offer comfort to a stranger, it caught him off guard. Dinner was simple. Reheated spaghetti from last night, garlic bread a little too crisp. But when Mia chatted about school bullies and the stray cat she was trying to feed, Emma found herself laughing softly, the sound foreign on her own lips. For a fleeting moment she felt like she was sitting at a real family table. And when Jack caught her watching the fridge drawings again, he said quietly, "She makes one for everyone she wants to keep around." Emma's chest ached. For the first time in years, she wished she could be one of those drawings. Dinner stretched on in the small kitchen, the sound of forks against chipped plates filling the quiet. Jack and Mia traded stories about her spelling test, about how the neighbour's dog stole her jump rope again. Emma mostly listened, the warmth of their rhythm tugging at a part of her she hadn't let herself feel in years. At one point, Mia set her fork down with all the seriousness of a professor. "Daddy says being brave doesn't mean you're not scared," she told Emma, her eyes wide. "It means you do the right thing anyway. Did you know that?" Emma blinked, her throat tightening. She'd heard words like that before, on stage, in speeches her father paid someone to write, but never from a child who believed them. Jack chuckled softly. "She's been eavesdropping again." "I don't eavesdrop," Mia said, grinning. "I just listen when you think I'm not." Emma laughed, but it caught in her chest. For the first time, she wondered if she'd been the coward all along, choosing silence, comfort, fear, while this little girl already understood what courage meant. After dinner, Mia tugged Emma toward her room. Purple walls, glow-in-the-dark stars scattered on the ceiling, stuffed animals piled like an army on the bed. She rummaged under her pillow and pulled out a piece of paper. It was a drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands under a crooked sun. One tall with messy hair, one small with pigtails, and one in a long dress. Mia pressed it into Emma's hands. "That's Daddy, that's me, and that's you." Emma's vision blurred. She tried to speak, but no words came. No portrait in her family's mansion had ever made her feel like this. When Mia finally curled into bed, Emma walked back into the kitchen, the drawing trembling in her grip. Jack was rinsing dishes. He glanced at her, then at the paper. "She only makes those for people she wants to keep around," he said quietly. Emma swallowed hard. "I don't deserve that." Jack met her eyes. "Maybe you need it more than most." Before she could answer, headlights swept across the curtains. A car slowed in front of the house, idling just a beat too long before driving off. Emma's fingers tightened on the drawing. The warmth of the evening lingered, but so did the reminder. Her father's shadow was closer than she wanted to believe. Emma didn't sleep much that night. She lay on the couch under Jack's jacket, Mia's crayon drawing still on the coffee table in front of her. She stared at it like it was a fragile promise. That maybe she wasn't alone, maybe she could belong somewhere. Every time headlights swept across the curtains, her chest tightened. By morning, her eyes were rimmed with red, but she forced herself up when she heard the clatter of bowls in the kitchen. Jack was pouring cereal for Mia. The girl was still in her pyjamas, swinging her feet under the table, humming to herself. When she spotted Emma, she grinned. "You didn't leave!" Emma blinked, surprised by the innocence of the words. "No, sweetheart, I didn't." Mia held out the box of cereal. "Want some? Daddy says even superheroes need breakfast." The comment nearly undid her. Emma sat down, taking the bowl Jack slid in front of her. For a few precious minutes, the world outside didn't exist. Just spoons clinking, milk spilling, Mia giggling when Jack teased her about too much sugar. But the moment shattered when Jack opened the front door to grab the newspaper. He froze, his shoulders tensing. Emma followed his gaze. Her picture was on the front page. A glossy shot from a gala weeks ago, her name printed in bold. Emma Dwyer missing after campus incident. Jack brought it inside, laying it flat on the table. "They know you're here," he said. Emma's hands shook as she picked it up. Her father's name filled the article, his quotes polished and sharp, painting her as unstable, confused, even ungrateful. Her throat tightened. "He's already rewriting the story. He'll make me the villain before anyone knows the truth." Jack leaned on the counter, arms folded, voice steady. "Then you need to decide if you're going to let him." Emma looked at him, the weight pressing down. "I don't know if I can." Before Jack could answer, Mia tugged on Emma's sleeve, holding up the drawing again. "Yes, you can," she said simply. "Because you're in our family picture now, and family pictures don't lie." The room fell quiet. Emma clutched the paper, her chest aching. And for the first time, the thought crossed her mind. Maybe she didn't have to keep running. Maybe she could stand. But outside, an unfamiliar car slowed in front of the house, engine rumbling, windows too dark to see inside. Jack's jaw tightened. "Looks like your father just raised the stakes." By afternoon, the street outside felt heavier. The same dark sedan idled at the corner, its engine humming like a warning. Jack worked in the driveway, sleeves rolled up, pretending not to notice, but Emma could see the way his eyes flicked toward it now and then. She sat on the porch steps, Mia curled against her side with a picture book. Every laugh the child let out chipped a little more at the wall Emma had built around herself. "Miss Emma," Mia asked suddenly, pointing to the picture book, "why is the girl scared of the dragon?" Emma swallowed. "Because she thinks she can't fight it." "But she can," Mia said simply. "Daddy says the dragon only looks big. It gets smaller when you stand up to it." Emma blinked hard, her chest aching. Out of the mouths of children, truth always seemed too sharp to ignore. When Mia darted back inside to grab another crayon, Jack straightened from under the hood and looked at Emma. "She's right, you know." Emma met his eyes, voice trembling. "I haven't told you the whole story." Jack leaned on the truck, waiting. He never rushed her. "My father wanted me to stand beside him," she began, her fingers knotting together. "Smile for cameras. Say the fire last year was a tragic accident. But it wasn't an accident. Corners were cut, inspections ignored, people were hurt, and he buried it like he always does." Jack's jaw tightened. "I remember that fire." Her eyes darted up. "You do?" "I pulled 2 men out before the roof caved in," Jack said quietly. "Then I spoke up about what caused it, and your father's lawyers made sure my career burned with the building." Emma's breath caught. The line between their lives drew itself in stark relief, her silence, his punishment. "I didn't know," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Jack studied her for a long moment, his voice steady. "Of course you didn't. That's how men like him work. Keep their kids polished and blind while the rest of us choke on the smoke. Emma pressed her hand to her face. Guilt clawed at her, but underneath it something else flickered. Anger. Not just at her father, but at herself for letting fear keep her quiet. From inside, Mia's voice floated out, sweet and sure. "Don't be scared of the dragon, Miss Emma. Draw a sword." Emma lowered her hand, wiping her cheeks. For the first time in years, she wanted to. But before she could answer, the black sedan outside revved its engine and inched closer to the curb. Jack's eyes hardened. "Looks like the dragon's already at our door." By evening, the sedan wasn't the only thing Emma noticed. The quiet little street had started buzzing in ways that made her skin crawl. Across the road, Mrs. Palmer, the retired teacher who usually waved at Jack on her morning walks, stood frozen at the mailbox, her phone pressed to her ear, as her eyes flicked between the newspaper in her hand and Emma's face. Two teenage boys rode by on bikes, whispering, one pointing toward the house before pedalling off fast. The bubble of safety was cracking, not with shouts and cameras this time, but with the sharpest sting of whispers, neighbours piecing together who was hiding under Jack Holloway's roof. Inside, Emma paced the living room. "It's starting," she said. "It always starts small, and then it spreads until there's nowhere left to breathe." Jack pulled the blinds shut, his voice calm. "Let them talk. People talk in this town when a dog runs loose. Doesn't mean they get to own your life." Emma shook her head, tears brimming. "You don't understand. My father thrives on silence. The moment people talk, he smothers it, twists it, makes me the liar. He'll do it again." Mia was colouring at the table, listening more closely than they realised. She held up her drawing, a stick figure girl holding a sword, standing in front of a dragon. "I drew you fighting it this time, Miss Emma." Emma's chest caved in. She knelt, tracing the shaky crayon lines with her finger. "You really think I could?" Mia nodded with the simple certainty only a child could have. "Because you're already in the picture." Jack watched, arms folded, something unreadable in his eyes. For years he had lived with the bitterness of what her father had cost him. But now he saw Emma holding that drawing like it was armour, and he wondered if maybe, just maybe, she was ready to stand. Before he could speak, a sharp knock rattled the front door. Emma froze, the drawing clutched to her chest. Jack's shoulders squared as he moved toward it. "Stay back," he told her quietly. Through the curtain a shadow shifted. Not a neighbour, not a boy on a bike, a man in a suit, standing still, waiting. The dragon had stepped onto their porch. The knock didn't go away. It came again, measured, firm, like someone who knew they had all the time in the world. Jack opened the door halfway, blocking the entry with his body. A tall man in a charcoal suit stood there, expression flat, a folder tucked neatly under his arm. "Mr. Holloway," the man said evenly. "I represent Mr. Dwyer. He's concerned for his daughter's well-being. He'd like her returned home quietly." Behind Jack, Emma's breath caught. Jack's jaw flexed. "She's not a piece of property you can come collect." The man's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "She's a public figure. This spectacle, living in your house, being seen in this neighbourhood, it isn't good for anyone, especially your little girl." His eyes flicked past Jack toward the hallway where Mia's sneakers lay by the door. Jack's hand tightens on the frame. "Leave her out of this." Emma stepped forward, voice trembling but loud enough to carry. "Tell him I'm not going back. Not now. Not ever." The man tilted his head as if weighing her words. "That's unfortunate," he said finally, "because your father doesn't take no for an answer, and if you stay here, Mr. Holloway will lose more than his job this time." For a moment, the silence inside the house was suffocating. Emma's chest heaved, Mia's crayon rolled off the table and clattered to the floor. Jack didn't blink. "Then you tell your boss," he said, voice low and steady. "If he wants to come for her, he'll have to come through me." The man studied him, unreadable, then slid the folder onto the porch rail. "Consider this a warning." He turned and walked back to the waiting sedan, the taillights glowing red before disappearing down the street. Emma picked up the folder with shaking hands. Inside were photographs, her leaving the campus, her getting into Jack's truck, her face caught in blurry shots at his front door, proof her father's reach was everywhere. Her voice broke as she whispered, "He's going to ruin you, just like he ruined everyone else." Jack gently pushed the folder aside. "Not if we ruin his silence first." Emma stared at him, tears pooling, realizing this wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about standing up, even if it cost them everything. And in that moment, for the first time, she believed she might actually be able to. 2 days later, the knock didn't come from a hired messenger. It came from him. Jack opened the door to find Richard Dwyer standing on the porch, silver hair neat, suit pressed sharp, the kind of presence that could silence a room without raising his voice. This wasn't a father here to see his daughter. This was a man who owned boardrooms, who expected the world to bend when he walked into it. Emma froze in the living room doorway. "Dad!" He didn't step inside at first. His eyes swept over the chipped paint of the porch, the worn welcome mat, the faint sound of cartoons playing in the background. Disdain flickered across his face. "This is where you've been hiding? In a mechanic's house?" Jack's voice was calm but firm. "She's not hiding, she's safe." Dwyer finally entered, brushing past him like he owned the place. He stopped in the centre of the living room, looking at Emma as if she was still a child. "Get your things, we're leaving." Emma shook her head, her voice steadier than she expected. "I'm not going back." His jaw tightened. "Do you have any idea what you're doing? The damage you've caused? My phones won't stop ringing, investors are questioning me, reporters are circling like vultures, and all because you decided to play house with a man beneath you." Emma flinched, but Jack stepped forward. "Careful." Dwyer turned, eyes narrowing. "I remember you, the firefighter who thought he could play whistleblower," he scoffed. "You lost everything for that little stunt, and now my daughter clings to you like you're some saviour. Pathetic." Jack didn't move, didn't blink. "I'd lose it all again before I let you hurt her." Emma's throat burned. Her father's words stung, but hearing Jack's steadiness beside her lit something inside. A courage she didn't know she had. She drew in a breath. "You don't control me anymore. Not where I live, not what I say, not who I trust. You may scare everyone else, but I'm done being afraid of you." Dwyer's expression cracked for the first time, his eyes narrowing into something darker. "You'll regret this, Emma. And when you do, don't expect me to save you." From the hallway, Mia's voice carried softly but clearly. "She doesn't need saving. She already has us." The room went still. For a moment, even Richard Dwyer had no reply. His gaze hardened, but he turned on his heel, storming out without another word. The slam of the door echoed like a warning. Emma sank onto the couch, her chest shaking, tears streaming down her face. Not from fear this time, but from relief. Jack sat beside her, steady as stone. "You didn't break," he said quietly. She wiped her eyes, her voice cracking. "For once I don't feel broken." The house was quiet long after Richard Dwyer's footsteps faded down the porch. Emma sat with her hands clasped tight, her breath still shaky, replaying every word she had managed to say without crumbling. Jack poured her a glass of water and set it in front of her. "You held your ground," he said simply. Her laugh came out broken. "I thought my knees were going to give out." "But they didn't," Jack said. "That matters." Emma looked up at him, her eyes wet. "Do you think people will believe me? Or will they believe him like always?" Jack leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. "Truth has a way of sticking, even if it takes time. The question is, are you ready to fight for it?" Emma swallowed hard. For years, she had been a background prop in her father's empire, smiling on command, silenced when necessary. But Mia's crayon drawing still sat on the table, a little stick figure Emma with a sword in her hand. She kept glancing at it, as if it were a prophecy she wasn't brave enough to claim. From down the hall, Mia's voice carried sleepily. "Good night, Miss Emma." Emma blinked back tears. "Good night, sweetheart," she called softly, her voice cracking on the last word. When the child's door clicked shut, Emma turned back to Jack. "I want to speak, not just here, not just to you, to everyone. If I stay silent now, he'll keep writing my story, and yours too." Jack studied her for a long moment, then he nodded once. "If that's what you're going to do, I'll stand next to you." Emma pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed. "Why? After everything my father did to you, why would you risk yourself again?" Jack's gaze didn't waver. "Because people like him win when the rest of us give up. And because..." He glanced toward the hallway where Mia's nightlight glowed faintly under the door. "She already decided your family. That's reason enough for me." Emma's throat tightened until she couldn't speak. For the first time in her life, she felt someone stand with her not out of duty or power, but choice. She wiped her eyes, her voice steady at last. Then it's time I choose too. Outside, headlights flared at the end of the street. Another car parked. Men in suits stepped out, scanning the house like surveyors staking a claim. Jack pulled the curtains shut, his jaw set. Looks like your father's not finished. Emma looked down at Mia's drawing again, the little sword raised high. Her pulse quickened, but instead of fear, something else surged through her. This time, she was ready to draw her own sword. The next morning, Emma woke before dawn. She sat at the kitchen table in Jack's jacket, Mia's drawing folded neatly in front of her. For once, she wasn't shaking. She was planning. When Jack came in, mug of coffee in hand, he took one look at her and knew. You're going to do it. Emma nodded. He's already twisting the story. If I don't speak, he wins. But if I do, maybe it's not just my fight anymore. Jack leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Once you open that door, there's no closing it. Emma met his eyes steady. Then I'll leave it open. By noon, a local journalist sat across from her in Jack's living room. No fancy lights, no makeup crew, just a single camera and a woman with a notepad who promised to give Emma the space to speak in her own words. Jack stayed behind the scenes, standing near the doorway like a silent anchor. Mia peeked from the hall, clutching her stuffed bear, watching like it was a bedtime story she couldn't miss. Emma's voice trembled at first. I wasn't kidnapped. I wasn't hiding from some scandal. I was attacked and no one helped me, except one man who owed me nothing. She glanced toward Jack, her chest tightening. A man who already lost his career once because he told the truth about my father's company. The reporter leaned forward. Are you saying your father covered up the fire last year? Emma's eyes burned, but she didn't look away. Yes, he buried the reports, paid off the damage, and when good people tried to speak, he destroyed them. Her voice grew stronger, steadier. I've lived my whole life in his shadow, smiling on command, keeping silent while others suffered. But I won't do it anymore. Not for him, not for his name, not for money that was built on lies. The room was silent except for the hum of the camera. Emma's hands shook as she unfolded Mia's crayon drawing and held it up. 3 stick figures, a crooked sun, and a little sword drawn in bright red. This is what gave me courage, she said softly. Not power, not wealth. A child reminding me that dragons only look big until you stand up to them. Tears welled in the reporter's eyes. Jack's throat tightened. Mia whispered from the hallway, Told you. When the camera clicked off, Emma exhaled like she had been holding her breath for years. Jack met her at the table, his voice low. You just lit a fire they can't put out. Emma folded the drawing carefully, her hands steady now. Good, she said, because I'm done living in the dark. The interview aired that night, and by morning, Emma's words were everywhere. Local news, Facebook groups, whispered conversations at diners and gas stations. Some called her brave, others called her reckless, but no one was ignoring her anymore. By the second day, the retaliation came. Jack found the letter first, shoved under the garage door at dawn. A legal notice, thick with threats, claims of defamation, promises of lawsuits that could drown them in court for years. At the bottom, Richard Dwyer's name signed in bold strokes, a warning as much as a signature. When Emma read it, her hands shook. He's going to destroy you, she whispered, just like he did before. Jack set the papers down calmly. Let him try. I already lost everything once. I know what it feels like, and I survived. Emma pressed a hand to her forehead, her voice breaking. But Mia, what if they drag her into this? What if they twist it so you look unfit, so they take her away from you? Jack's jaw tightened, but before he could answer, Mia wandered in with her drawing pad. She climbed onto Emma's lap and flipped the page to show a new picture. 3 figures again, but this time the tallest stick figure held a shield. This is you, Mia said, tapping Emma's figure. You're protecting us now. Emma's breath caught. She pulled the little girl into her arms, holding her tight. For all the money her family had ever thrown at her, nothing had given her this, a child's unshaken faith. Jack watched silently, something soft flickering in his eyes. For years he'd carried the weight of fighting alone. Now he realised he didn't have to anymore. That evening, Emma checked her phone. Messages pouring in, strangers reaching out. Some offered support, others hurled insults, threats, even warnings to go home while you still can. She scrolled until her hands trembled too much to keep going. Jack took the phone gently from her and set it aside. Let them scream. You already found your voice. That's the only one that matters. Emma looked at him, her chest aching. Do you really believe that? Before he could answer, a car pulled up outside. Not reporters this time, sleek black, tinted windows, the kind she knew too well. Emma's heart slammed. She whispered, "It's him." Jack moved to the door, shoulders squared. For the first time, Emma rose too. Not hiding behind him, but standing beside him. Because Mia was right. She wasn't just part of the picture anymore. She was ready to hold the shield. The knock came just after sunset. This time there was no messenger, no lawyer. It was Richard Dwyer himself. Jack opened the door, and there he was, perfectly pressed suit, polished shoes sinking into the cracked porch boards, eyes sharp as steel. Two men in suits flanked him, but they stayed a step behind. Emma stood in the living room, her chest tightening. She'd spent her whole life freezing under that look, obeying it without question. But not tonight. Not. "Emma," her father said smoothly, as if nothing had happened. "You've made your point. Now come home. I'll handle the rest." Emma's voice was steady, though her hands shook. "Home? That house hasn't felt like home in years, and you don't get to handle me anymore." Dwyer's jaw clenched. "Do you have any idea what you're throwing away? The inheritance, the company, the respect of everyone who matters?" Emma cut him off, her voice rising. "Respect? You built your empire on lies. On people getting hurt while you cashed checks. If that's respect, I don't want it." Jack stepped closer, ready if things turned. But Emma held her ground, her shoulders squared. Her father's eyes narrowed. "You think this man can protect you? He's a washed-up firefighter living off scraps. You're my daughter. You belong with me." Emma shook her head slowly. "No, Dad. I don't belong to you. I belong to myself. And right now, I choose to stand with people who see me, not my last name." The silence that followed was thick. The two men in suits shifted uneasily, as if even they felt the crack in Richard Dwyer's control. From the hallway, Mia's small voice piped up, clutching her stuffed bear. "She already has a family. She doesn't need a bossy dad." For a split second, Richard's mask slipped. His eyes flicked to the child, then back to Emma. He stepped forward, but Jack blocked his path, voice low and unshaken. "That's far enough." Richard stared at them, fury simmering under his calm exterior. He straightened his tie, regained his composure, and hissed, "You'll regret this." Emma lifted Mia's drawing, the one with the shield, and held it against her chest. Her voice was firm. "Maybe, but I'd regret it more if I kept pretending you were right." For the first time, Richard Dwyer turned without another word. His men followed him to the car, the slam of the doors echoing down the street. The sedan pulled away, taillights fading into the night. Inside the house, Emma's knees finally buckled, but Jack caught her before she hit the floor. She clung to him, breathless, whispering, "I didn't break this time." Jack's voice was quiet but certain. "No, you didn't." The days after Richard Dwyer's visit felt different. The sedan stopped parking across the street. The men in suits didn't come back. But the ripples of Emma's choice spread wider than she ever imagined. The interview clip had gone viral, shared by strangers, replayed on morning shows, dissected on talk radio. For once, her father wasn't the only voice in the room. And in a small-town garage at the edge of Brenton, people began to show up. One afternoon, a man in a worn army jacket walked in, grease under his nails. He shook Jack's hand firmly. "I was there the night of that fire," he said. "You pulled my brother out. I never got the chance to thank you." Another day, a woman from down the block stopped by with a pie in hand. She looked at Emma with kind eyes. "Took guts to stand up like that. Don't let anyone tell you different." Emma nearly cried right there on the porch. For so long, she thought the world would only ever see her as her father's daughter. Now strangers were seeing her as herself. At home, life found its rhythm again. Jack fixed cars, Mia left her shoes scattered everywhere, and Emma helped fold laundry while the evening news played softly in the background. There was nothing glamorous about it, and that was what made it feel real. One night, after Mia had been tucked in, Emma sat on the porch swing with Jack. The crickets sang, a neighbour's dog barked down the street, and for the first time in years she felt peace. "I lost everything," she whispered. "The money, the house, all of it." Jack glanced at her. "And?" Emma smiled through tears. "And I don't miss it, not even a little." Jack studied her, then unclasped the chain around his neck, the old firehouse badge he'd carried for years. He placed it in her palm. "I only give this to people I trust to stand beside me." Her fingers closed around it, trembling. "Then I'll stand there, with you, with Mia." From inside the house, Mia's sleepy voice carried out through the screen door. "Don't forget to draw our family picture tomorrow, Miss Emma." Emma laughed, wiping her eyes. "I won't." And as Jack reached over, resting his hand over hers, Emma realised this was what freedom felt like. Not silence, not fear, but choosing truth, even when it cost everything, and finding somehow that what she gained was worth far more. The world would keep talking, whispering, speculating, but inside that little house on a quiet street there was nothing left to prove. Just a man, a child, and a woman who finally stopped running, building a life together, one ordinary day at a time. Lesson: true courage isn't about wealth, power, or a famous last name. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it costs you everything. Family is not just blood, but the people who see you, protect you, and choose to stay. Thank you so much for staying with me until the very end of this story. I'm truly grateful for your time and support. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you again soon, right here on Rain Inside.